Touch my heart, man. Touch my heart, bro. Touch my heart, bro. Hey, man. Come on, man. Don't do this. Give me a heart attack.
The Miami Heat had done everything, right? They landed star Giannis Antetokounmpo. They rebuilt their defensive and offensive schemes, sacrificing youth and future draft assets to put themselves in immediate championship position. They built a highly functional, spacing-rich supporting cast on paper and assembled a coaching staff already proven at maximizing complex, high-execution half-court offensive schemes. Lineups built around physically dominant, rim-running superstars. Pat Riley got him on the phone as the front office made its detailed tactical case to every available channel, positioning the entire franchise as the most tactically sound and emotionally resonant destination in professional basketball, starting weeks of long, agonizing, and perpetually breathless speculation. The entire professional basketball landscape operated under the collective assumption that it was only a brief matter of time before LeBron James returned to South Beach to finish his career. Then, he chose Philadelphia instead. The moment LeBron James officially posted his decision on the morning of July 25, 2026, confirming he was indeed signing with the Philadelphia 76ers on a 2-year, $8 million deal, the seismic shock of that roster shift radiated instantly through South Florida, and Miami Heat players reacted. Their raw reactions told a story far bigger than any single free agency decision, showing exactly where a historic basketball legacy ends, where nostalgia finally yields to competitive ambition, and where a 41-year-old player entering his 24th professional season decided to place his final career bet. What you are about to hear is the full story of how close Miami actually came to landing him, why Philadelphia won the race, and how Heat players responded when the official decision landed, and what this strategic choice means for the final chapter of the most decorated career this sport has ever seen. To fully grasp the massive tactical and historical weight of this moment, you have to go back to where LeBron's championship journey genuinely started. He arrived in Miami back in the summer of 2010 as the most highly coveted free agent in NBA history, the center of a highly coordinated announcement that drew the largest sports television audience of its entire era. What followed was 4 straight trips to the NBA Finals and 2 world championships inside that arena, built around the big three of LeBron, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh, a lineup that completely redefined what a modern, positionless basketball superpower could look like. LeBron won his first title in Miami and won his second championship there too. He shed his very first championship tears in that arena, on that hardwood in front of that loyal city. He learned exactly what it meant to be a champion under Eric Spoelstra, inside Pat Riley's legendary organizational culture, carrying the heavy expectations of a franchise that had believed in him completely when others still had their doubts. When he returned to Cleveland in 2014, Pat Riley did not hide how deeply that sudden departure stung. He admitted that he had thought they were looking at a long-term dynasty, calling that sudden departure one of the most disappointing moments of his long executive career. The complicated relationship between LeBron James and Miami was never entirely resolved after that fateful summer, and passionate basketball fans on both sides always seemed to understand on some quiet, unspoken level that the legendary, unwritten story between them was not yet finished. As LeBron's final tenure with the Los Angeles Lakers wound down through its closing seasons, the Miami reunion conversation accelerated steadily from mere background noise to serious speculation. The Lakers had traded star big man Anthony Davis to Dallas in exchange for Luka Doncic at the 2025 trade deadline, a massive blockbuster deal that instantly reoriented the franchise's timeline. LeBron ultimately opted into the final year of his contract, earning nearly $53 million, while accepting a lower usage role alongside Doncic. And when Los Angeles was eventually eliminated by the Oklahoma City Thunder in the competitive second round of the playoffs, he officially informed the Lakers front office he would not be returning. His agent Rich Paul released a statement framing LeBron's departure around the simple concept of basketball happiness. The search for his final destination had officially begun, and Miami immediately emerged as one of the most prominent discussed names in the conversation. The Heat front office had not been idle. Pat Riley moved aggressively this offseason, and the crown jewel of Miami's summer arrived when they acquired two-time league MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo from Milwaukee. The trade cost was quite significant. Tyler Herro, Kelly Oubre, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kasper Yakushonis, and a substantial package of future draft capital, all headed over to the Bucks in exchange for the Greek Freak. Pat Riley parted with those rotation pieces willingly because he understood exactly what Giannis represented, a legitimate, high-gravity cornerstone around which a new championship contender could be constructed. And once Giannis was in the fold, the Heat began positioning themselves as the most attractive destination in basketball for one very specific tactical reason. They were not just asking LeBron to join an unfinished project. They were asking him to complete a dominant frontcourt pairing with immense pick-and-roll potential. Riley addressed the pursuit directly and publicly. He went on the Dan Le Batard show, acknowledged the complicated time. He admitted there was significant history between himself and LeBron, noting that they had not spoken extensively since the 2014 departure. He reflected on the disappointment of watching that championship-winning dynasty dissolve, but made it clear that the Heat front office stayed in constant contact with Rich Paul, proving that their interest was entirely real, and that Miami was prepared to pitch its front-court plan as aggressively as the situation required. During the introductory press conference for Giannis, Riley delivered a single, sharp line that resonated across the entire league. He announced to the room that the Heat had landed the plane. Then he paused, looked out at the assembled media, and declared there was another one they still had to land. The implication was unmistakable, and the entire NBA understood exactly what he meant. The tactical basketball case Riley was selling was not built on nostalgia alone. It was genuinely compelling. LeBron playing alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bam Adebayo would have created a front court with unmatched paint pressure, completely collapsing defensive shells and dominating the rim. Defensively, Adebayo offered perimeter switching versatility, while Giannis brought relentless help side length, and LeBron read passing lanes off the ball, effectively covering all major offensive threats. Analysts noted that Miami's versatile defensive infrastructure was actually better suited to protecting a 41-year-old LeBron than Philadelphia's scheme. While Embiid's deep drop coverage conceded mid-range space, Miami's scheme, built on aggressive perimeter switching, heavy point of attack pressure, and long athletic rotations, provided a much safer defensive framework to mask exactly what LeBron could no longer do on that end. Under Eric Spoelstra, a point forward LeBron initiating plays from the high post, while Giannis cut hard from the weak side slot, and Adebayo operating as a short roll creator, was no fantasy but a highly functional half-court alignment that would have shattered any defensive rotation in the East. But beyond the X's and O's, there was a unique narrative Miami was offering that no other franchise in professional basketball could hope to match. LeBron James returning to South Beach would have been a cinematically complete conclusion to his journey in professional sports. Just think about what that version of events actually looked like. The city where he became a champion for the first time, and the franchise that believed in him when the media narrative had hardened around the word failure, and working with the head coach who pushed him through his toughest professional moments and watched him emerge on the other side as an elite, transcendent player. A second run through the Eastern Conference, alongside a new generation of star players, with that same organizational culture that anchored his first two titles in Miami, a massive championship parade down Biscayne Boulevard serving as both a homecoming and a final farewell. There is a version of basketball history where that story writes itself, where every single observer of this sport looks at the closing chapter of LeBron's career and acknowledges it as one of the most poetic endings ever put together. The city where his championship winning began becomes the city where it ends, closing his legendary career circle completely. That was the grand vision Miami was selling. For weeks, it felt like the exact path LeBron was going to choose. He did not. And the reason why I cut straight to the central, ongoing tension of his final years as an active player. Miami's pitch, highly compelling on paper, carried a major structural on-court demand that quietly worked against his physical spacing preferences at the exact moment when he could least afford to ignore it. The most urgent roster need for the Heat was an elite, primary playmaker, a featured offensive creator capable of organizing half-court attacks around Giannis and Adebayo at the highest level throughout a full regular season and a grueling playoff run. Historically, LeBron was precisely that caliber of high-usage point forward. But the actual version of LeBron finishing that 2025-26 season was highly different from what he still averaged 20.9 points, 7.2 assists, and 6.1 rebounds per game across 60 games. Those are productive numbers at any age, but his offensive usage rate fell to a career low. His on-ball time of possession had dropped to 3.8 minutes per game, which was a 37% decline from his previous low in the player tracking era. He had deliberately yielded heavy primary playmaking duties while in Los Angeles, and that transition had worked. Miami Herald beat reporter Anthony Chang captured his paradox perfectly. The Heat may have offered LeBron the cleanest tactical on-court fit of any team in championship contention, and that exact role was likely the problem. It was asking far too much grueling on-ball playmaking from a 41-year-old frame that had finite physical energy remaining. Bam Adebayo's own perspective on recruiting LeBron carried a unique weight that extended far beyond standard roster interests. He had logged serious floor time alongside LeBron during international play while representing Team USA, and that proximity gave him a first-hand understanding of how LeBron's massive gravity shifts an entire half-court environment. Adebayo knows exactly how fast LeBron diagnoses weak-side defensive rotations in real time. He knows how loudly LeBron directs defensive assignments and communicates inside a huddle. He knows the standard LeBron sets for preparation, the obsessive film study, and diagnosing complex defensive coverages. The way he holds teammates to an elevated standard, demanding precise floor spacing and defensive rotation discipline, simply by walking into the gym. That experience leaves an impression. Adebayo went into the offseason understanding, better than any teammate, how LeBron's gravity unlocks pick-and-roll spacing. What a LeBron signing would have meant for the Heat's half-court ceiling and spacings. Throughout that high-stakes recruitment period, Adebayo carried himself with a measured, veteran professionalism, anchoring the team much like he anchors Miami's switching defensive scheme as captain. He did not publicly lobby in a desperate way, nor did he use social media as a recruitment platform. He trusted the front office process, representing the franchise exactly the way a cornerstone player is supposed to. There was no performative outreach, no attention-seeking post designed to manufacture artificial leverage. He let the front office's work speak. When LeBron chose Philadelphia, Adebayo pivoted without a single second of hesitation, immediately shifting his public focus toward what Miami could accomplish with Giannis, reinforcing the physical, paint-protecting, defensive-first Heat culture, that you compete hard with the roster you have, and you never stop fighting. In a moment that could have prompted visible frustration from the team's captain, Adebayo chose to focus. The culture held because their captain held it first, and the rest of the roster followed that tone. No other Heat players leaked their frustration to the press, and none of them directed negative energy toward an outcome they had hoped would go differently. The Heat organization knew that complicating LeBron's roster transition to the Philadelphia 76ers, or reflecting poorly on their competitive character, would only undermine the next phase of their roster retooling plans. Professionalism in this moment was not just common courtesy, it was calculated strategy. The franchise's front office response mirrored Adebayo's quiet discipline at every single level. There was no visible roster fracture, no public frustration, and zero commentary that could be read as bitterness toward LeBron or Philadelphia. What emerged instead was a rapid, decisive pivot toward other viable target players. The Miami Herald reported almost immediately after LeBron's announcement that the Heat were redirecting their front office attention toward DeMar DeRozan's mid-range scoring and Klay Thompson's spacing, with Bradley Beal in the conversation as a fallback. Pat Riley was already solving rotation issues before the media fully processed what had happened. That is the operational signature of a veteran franchise that has learned, through decades of genuine playoff heartbreak, that the fastest response to missing out on a target is an immediate pivot toward what comes next. But the storybook narrative surrounding a return to Miami was never purely a tactical basketball argument. The sheer emotional weight of what did not happen deserves to be addressed honestly. LeBron returning to Miami would have represented something incredibly rare in professional sports: a poetic ending. The city where he first became an NBA champion, and the franchise that believed in him when the public narrative calcified around the word failure, and the head coach who pushed his physical limits through difficult moments. Watching him emerge on the other side as a transcendent, dominant force. Another championship run through South Beach, a second trophy hoisted at Kaseya Center, and a storybook final chapter, written in the exact same city where his legendary championship story originally began. Fans who watched the Big Three era knew that LeBron had never quite said everything about his time in Miami. A return would have allowed him to address it on the most meaningful stage available. Philadelphia presented a very different tactical fit. The 76ers had already built a powerhouse roster before LeBron arrived. They had acquired Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics early in the offseason, adding a 2024 NBA Finals MVP to a core that already boasted Joel Embiid's interior gravity and the explosive speed of Tyrese Maxey. When Bob Myers, the president of Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, made a direct appearance on Rich Paul's podcast to pitch Philadelphia's case, the pitch was built around one central idea: this roster does not need LeBron to act as the primary engine. It needs him to be the veteran intelligence that elevates the half-court, spacing, and defensive rotations. The difference between Miami's ask and Philadelphia's ask was the gap between a high-usage role and a complementary one. And at 41 years old, entering a 24th season, LeBron understood exactly which version of himself he could physically sustain. His announcement reflected that calculation without ambiguity, writing that this was his last decision. He stated plainly that money was not a factor, a position made highly credible by the staggering contrast between his $53 million Lakers salary and the $8 million veteran's minimum he accepted in Philadelphia, while addressing the family dimension directly by acknowledging that his daughter Zuri had been pulling him. Staying close to Los Angeles carried huge emotional weight, creating a geographical hurdle that no pitch from Miami could ever fully overcome. Ultimately, he decided family would not be the final deciding factor. What drove his decision was simply a fierce singular drive to compete, to win and grab one final title. Philadelphia, he decided, offered the clearest, most direct path to glory. The roster backed up that belief. Pairing Embiid and LeBron in the front court gave the 76ers immense gravity, combined with high-low passing power and positional versatility that Eastern opponents cannot easily defend when Embiid is healthy. Maxey's downhill speed and off-ball gravity warped defensive rotations, creating the wide-open perimeter lanes a lower usage LeBron needs next to him. With Brown on the wing, a proven scorer, Philadelphia erased any doubt about their depth, about whether their half-court offense would stall in late-game situations. Sophomore VJ Edgecombe provides a switchable defensive option to take on difficult point-of-attack assignments, allowing LeBron to strategically conserve energy. Veteran Dean Wade, who originally signed expecting to start as a stretch power forward in the front court, now provides reliable floor spacing, thriving as a high-value pick and pop threat. Analysts at ESPN graded this signing an A+ on value, shocked that LeBron enters the upcoming season as only the 7th highest paid player on the team, a wild bargain for the league's all-time leading scorer. a four-time champion and the league's first active billionaire. The Eastern Conference power structure shifted completely the moment this news broke. The Sixers entered the 2025-26 season with 45 wins after being swept by the New York Knicks in the second round, still limited by Embiid's serious durability issues. He played under 40 games recently. LeBron's son's arrival does not fix that. His presence alters their offensive ceiling, opening up high-post playmaking when Embiid is on court, while keeping their half-court offensive system stable when the big man rests. A small ball rotation featuring Brown, LeBron, Maxey, and Edgecombe remains incredibly dangerous even without their center. This elite level of tactical versatility and roster depth separates them from rival contenders, saving them from sudden injury disasters. They must challenge the reigning champion Knicks, a dangerous Celtics squad, and the rising Cavaliers. Yet the talent gap facing Miami versus this deep, defensively switchable Philadelphia roster built around star players with DeMar DeRozan, Thompson, or Beal spacing. The floor shows a distinct tactical divide, highlights the intense emotional swing that fans feel. A franchise stuck for decades behind some of the most decorated championship lineups in league history. 4 decades of brutal near misses, process, and bad luck. Pairing LeBron brings genuine hope to this championship-starved fan base. Local sports radio is buzzing about building perfect floor spacing around a pick-and-roll playmaker, not seen since Julius Erving ruled. Heat fans watch their front office adjust. Opposing coaches now possess the tactical blueprint for a 76er squad that added 2 elite playmakers to warp their half-court spacing. No rival franchise takes that level of floor spacing gravity lightly. For Miami, the restructuring of their roster hierarchy landed with uncomfortable clarity. ESPN analysts ranked the Heat below the Knicks, Sixers, Celtics, Cavaliers, and Pistons, heavily questioning Miami's front court floor spacing. That happened before the offseason even concluded. Miami had already pulled off a major coup by trading for Giannis's elite interior gravity, and his interior defensive presence remained massive. They executed that deal with precision, then spent an entire summer chasing LeBron's perimeter playmaking, only to watch him board a plane headed north to join Philadelphia's spacing. The respect Miami fans had for LeBron's elite transition play and half-court gravity during the Big Three era, the championships, the total transformation of the franchise, the image of him, Wade, and Bosh celebrating their defensive switching championships in the morning hours, did not fade. But it lived alongside the realization that LeBron had the opportunity to run it back in Miami's spacing-friendly half-court system, and he chose a different floor geometry. That is not bitterness, just the reality of watching a superstar shift his playmaking priorities into a decision that directly reshapes your team's defensive rotations. Globally, the media reacted with the typical high-volume noise that follows LeBron James at this late stage of his career. Stephen A. Smith even went on television saying this massive roster shift shocked him. Commentators instantly debated whether Embiid's physical durability, playing fewer than 40 games across 3 straight seasons, made their backline rim protection structurally unsound. Others countered that flanking Embiid with 3 all-star caliber perimeter threats offers supreme floor spacing, providing the perfect load management insurance Philadelphia always lacked. By reducing Embiid's heavy offensive usage rate and easing his physical rolls to the rim, they preserve his vital defensive rim protection. This intense tactical debate showed exactly how much this roster decision mattered to anyone analyzing professional basketball rotations seriously. Assessing what this choice means for his legacy will require years of analyzing actual half-court spacing before any conclusion solidifies completely. He has already answered every critical question regarding where he stands in terms of overall skill and championship pedigree. 4 championships, 4 finals MVPs, 22 all-star appearances, the historical scoring record, and unmatched positional playmaking versatility. A career covering 24 seasons across 4 teams, dominating every complex defensive scheme of modern professional basketball. None of those career achievements change based on Philadelphia's half-court execution. But the final chapter of a historic career carries a particular playmaking weight that everything which came before cannot fully override. Basketball fans remember how systems finish. They remember the exact spacing of those final runs. And LeBron James, in choosing Philadelphia's spacing over Miami and announcing that choice, with the raw, unfiltered transparency of his official public statement, has shown the entire basketball world something highly revealing about his competitive drive at 41 years old. He is clearly not chasing sentimental, slow-paced roster nostalgia. He is not chasing the comfort of familiar half-court sets, the warmth of an adoring home crowd that already loves him, or the easy narrative of a storybook ending. He is chasing elite floor spacing and rings. At 41, having just taken a massive discount to $8 million from a team that paid him $53 million last year to maximize cap space, LeBron James has signaled to the entire sport exactly what still drives him when his contract value is stripped away. The drive to win, the trust in his off-ball gravity, and refusing to close this chapter without one final run at the championship peak he has been chasing since first picking up a ball as a talented teenager in Akron, Ohio, decades ago. That clear focus is either the single most compelling argument for how this high-low spacing works on court, or a poignant illustration of the massive floor balance risks involved in making this bet. Miami Heat players responded to LeBron's choice like seasoned pros do when major free agent targets sign elsewhere and floor spacing must be rebuilt. They adjusted their defensive rotations, showed real class without bitterness, and locked in on optimizing the perimeter spacing and paint gravity of their current squad. Miami's front office was already restructuring their half-court schemes before the media completed its analysis. The Heats still had Giannis, they had Bam, and they retained one of the greatest defensive minds in basketball history. Their culture of intense defensive switching and roster accountability does not evaporate simply because a premier free agent target chooses a different high-low offensive system. But make no mistake, LeBron joining the Philadelphia 76ers shut the door on one of the most anticipated perimeter and paint reunions in modern NBA history. LeBron prioritized championship spacing over nostalgia. He picked Philadelphia's roster over South Beach. This choice prioritized one final title run over the storybook ending that analysts had been writing since his Lakers' half-court spacing first began to decline. He bet on Embiid anchoring their drop coverage defense, Maxey running the high-paced transition attack, and Brown hitting key perimeter shots when they matter, and on his own elite playmaking gravity at 41, taking less money than any comparable superstar in the league, preserving enough leg power to fight over screens and contest late-game isolation looks when playoff elimination games are decided in the final 2 minutes. Whether this high-gravity roster finally delivers the 5th championship he has spent this final stage of his career chasing, or whether it leaves him quietly wondering what might have happened with a more switchable defensive roster in the city where his journey first began, it is a strategic matchup puzzle that will hang over the entire 2026-27 NBA season, from the opening tip-off until defensive adjustments decide the final game of the finals. The Heat are studying spacing. The Knicks are watching. Boston, Cleveland, Milwaukee. The entire Eastern Conference is recalibrating their defensive rotations around a massive choice made one July morning in 2026. Down in Philadelphia, LeBron James is already in the gym dissecting drop coverages, studying weak-side film, and preparing for what he decided will be the last ride of his career. Whether South Beach ever finds its ideal transition offense remains to be seen. What is certain is that Philadelphia's revamped half-court offense just gave them their best title shot in 43 years, and LeBron James is the reason why.